But so I left, and I'll never forget, Miles and I were at the Copacabana one night watching Lena Horne. And Jerome Robbins, the choreographer of West Side Story, came over and said, okay.
In there, right? And that's what I did, and he let the whole take go by. And then he said to the whole band, y'all play like a bunch of sissies. But he didn't say sissies, right? And then he walked out of the studio. He just left. But get back to the trust. What he would do is he wouldn't tell you anything, right? He'd just say, look, here's a couple of notes, and then do your thing. Herbie Hancock has the same stories. Okay, and what you had to do is, because this is such a big moment, because every decade that Miles was alive, his legend grew. So when you're in his band and it's 1980 and he's been doing his thing since the 40s, it's so much like inside of you that wants to do well, and he's not telling you what to do. So where do you go? You go inside, and you find, you go down and dig deep to your toes and find something that is you. And the first time I recognized my own style, yes, the first time I recognized my own style was when I heard the playback of this particular take. I said, whoa, that sounds, I don't know if it's good, but it's me, you know? And that was the first step towards me growing and becoming, like, having my own voice in music. And then, you know, and then he stopped halfway and said, when the hell are you gonna tell me what to do? Right? And I was like, oh, my bad, Miles. Listen, man, don't play, you know, but I began to give him instruction, which is really intimidating, because I'm like 24, 25 years old, and this is Miles Davis. You know, it's like going, Jesus, man, look, when you walk on the water, take a step like that. Don't step too hard. So I gave him tentative instructions at first. Just play here, man, just, you know, and then here's a melody, and I had a little saxophone that I could play the melody in the same key as Miles, so I played a melody for him. And then it started sounding good. And then I started getting confident, because once the music goes, you can be as nervous as you want. All the musicians know you can be nervous until the music starts, because then you don't have time to be nervous. You got to make this stuff sound right, right? So the music started sounding right, and I started getting, whoop, play, Miles, go. So I'm like, wow, man, I'm getting a little confident here, you know? And he's looking at me like, oh, you starting to feel yourself, huh? But it was, you know, that was our first moment in the studio. Over the years, we worked for maybe 4 or 5 years in that fashion, and it got to be very, very comfortable, man, where, you know, I'd have him at the microphone, and I'd say something about his pants in between the takes, and he'd go, man, J.J. Johnson used to wear his pants way up here like that. Why he wear his pants like that, Marcus? Right? And then he'd say, and Dexter Gordon wouldn't let me wear my Brooks Brothers suits when I first came to New York in the 40s. He made me go up and get a suit that fit me like this. But what I'm saying is that I got such an education just sitting there at the microphone with him before we get ready to do a take. He would just tell me, and I think the reason that we got along is because although, you know, I was, you know, 40, 50 years younger than him, I knew the whole history. You know, he could talk about J.J. Johnson, he could talk about Dexter Gordon, he could talk about Herbie, he could talk about Red Garland, anything, and I was like, I understood and I knew. And so it was one of the most unbelievable experiences of my life. The music was good enough, but just having him talk about all that stuff, and then having him play the trumpet, and then leave and go home, and just leave me there to finish it. You know, one time I had done one take with Miles, it was good, and I did another take that was good, but the first half of this take was really good. The second half of the other take was really good, and I said, man, I know this is against the law, but I'm gonna snip these two together. You know? And I mean, I wonder how Miles is gonna react when he hears two performances snipped together. You know, and I call it spliced. So he came in the next day, let me hear what we did yesterday. And I played it, and I'm getting ready to take this beat down, you know. And we play it, and then it skips over to the splice, and it keeps playing. He's going, man, I played my ass off.
I never want to take credit for bringing Miles back, you know, and that's one of the stories that were, you know, floated around. I wanted him to play, but when he was ready to play, he did his thing, and he called George and said, get my nephew, get that band in here. Then he called Marcus. I mean, he was always, even when he wasn't on this out, playing, he'd always have a spy or something to go out, and he would know what musician. Mina was the hot cat. Marks was doing sessions. Bill was by Dave Liebman. He was recommended by Dave Liebman. So he always knew, even when he wasn't out. And he always listened to records and Sly and different records, just so he would know what was current. He always stayed current. Even when he wasn't out playing, he always knew how to stay current. Fashion, he'd have the magazine sent to him. He'd have the TV on with the sound down. And then people would come by when they played.
Really something, I couldn't believe he could do it. Like at his age, I know his body hurt him a lot, but we were grinding out tour dates sometimes in Europe and Japan, and I was in my teens, and I was like, oh, how do I do this? And then he would just be like, come on, let's go, get in the car, let's go. I don't want to be late for the plane. I mean, I left my passport in my suitcase many times, But remembering him, sometimes I can't really watch boxing anymore without him there to break it down for me, And it was something that really, I didn't really care about boxing, but watching it with him, I was like, oh, really? And and then he'd be like, oh, get the popcorn, And his painting, he just, a lot of people don't know that he was a very affluent painter, artist, I should say, a visual artist. And he was into other artists, and we would go visit them in their studios all around the world when he was on the road. He would buy their stuff, and they would come to the show, But yeah, he's just unpredictable, and that's something you can't take that for granted. That part of his whole thing about not wanting to look back on what he did. I mean, running the estate with Vince, I had to do a lot of research because we never talked about, I made those records with Gil Evans, and you need to know about that. No. He'd be like, you need to check out Marcus. Yeah. You need to check out Larry Blackman. You need to check out these kind of, And I was always curious about instruments. So Yamaha had always sent us gear. So we had all kinds. I had drums, bass, guitar, and I would noodle around with everything. And he would always give me compliments. And then one time he said, "You can be like Marcus, I was like, I don't know about all that.
Another one just down the center. You want to take down, switch places so you can get closer? Yeah.
No, don't shoot. Get back into the car, old man. I know you're hurt, boy, but don't do something stupid now.
I probably just wanted a white girl. I mean, that's what it was.
There were actually three stories of my friends, basically, and that's where the idea came into existence.
Yeah, in response to what was said earlier, I'd just like to say, as the movie says at the end, love has no color. So who he chose has nothing to do with a particular race. It has something to do with love is special.
What is really important in life, and I think that's the mission of filmmaking.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I just need your feedback as well.